Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our monthly series of 30-minute flash webinars to keep consultants and nonprofits informed and connected during this time. I'm Lydia Varesco-Racoma of Lydia Varesco Design. I'm also on the board of directors of ACN. And today I would like to welcome our speaker, Dawn Hershik. She is owner and managing director of the Supporting Strategies office in Naperville, and she will be talking to us today about bookkeeping best practices and mistakes to avoid. Just a reminder, this will be a 20-minute talk with some time for questions at the end. Everyone will be on mute, and I invite you to put your questions in the chat. If you have something really pressing, I will be keeping an eye on it, and I will make sure that Dawn can answer it at that time. Otherwise, we will save them for the end. And now, welcome, Dawn. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Lydia. It's good to be here. Hi, everyone. It's great to see so many of you joining for this, what I think is an important topic. As Lydia said, I am the owner of a Supporting Strategies office. We're based in Naperville. We have always been a virtual company, so all of this technology is not new to us. But what we do is bring order to chaos for business owners because we provide bookkeeping and controller level services. All of that stuff that nobody really likes to do but needs to be done is what we handle for them. So today, I think it's really important to talk about some areas that a lot of business owners, just when you get so busy, you don't really have time to think about, but these are really important things to try to avoid as you're starting a business and growing a business. So we're just gonna go over five important ones that you need to pay attention to, or consult with people who need to pay attention to it if you know somebody who's in business, starting a business, and going from there. So the first one, and this is tough at the beginning, is the commingling of personal and business funds. You know, when you're first starting out, it's easy to fall into this trap because you might not have your business bank account set up yet. So you are using money out of your personal account to run the business. But the key here is if you're not treating your business and personal finances separately, the law won't either. And if you know lawyers, if you've heard them talk, they refer to this as piercing the corporate veil. And so it could get into some legal areas if you're not keeping those things separate. The other thing is it really helps you get a better understanding of the actual business funds that are coming in and out of the business. So when you have cleaner statements, whether it's a bank statement or a credit card statement, it makes it easier to reconcile the account because you don't have to spend time, you know, trying to remember or pulling out personal items that you spent business funds on or vice versa. So you need to make sure that you're getting that done correctly. And then the other thing is you want to make sure that you're pinpointing small mistakes as they happen, which when you reconcile, that's part of why you reconcile, to catch those little things before they turn into big things that have to be then unraveled. The second one is recording revenue and expenses correctly. You know, when you first start, it's really important to understand the detail of what you're going to keep track of as far as revenue, so that you can really analyze the money that's coming in, what's generating your revenue. If you're selling a product, you're gonna probably want to track each product line because that will give you a great idea of where to focus, which product line is doing better than others. Do you need to increase manufacturing for that product line? Same on the service side, you wanna track what services you're selling, which ones are doing better than others. Maybe you need to change what you're providing based on that information that you're seeing on your financials every month. And the expenses, obviously, it seems pretty clear, but sometimes people forget all of those little receipts too need to be accounted for if it's a coffee meeting, because they add up. And so a business owner really needs to have a clear picture of profit and loss. And so you need to make sure that both the revenue and the expenses are being tracked and recorded, so you have that clean profit and loss statement each month. The third area is understanding terms of credit agreements, right? Sometimes you do have to go and find money, whether it's a loan or a line of credit. So you want to make sure that you're reading and understanding what those terms are, whether it's the interest rate or when the money has to be paid back. Maybe there's a stair-step interest rate that you want to be aware of. So before you sign anything, make sure that you're understanding it. If you're having trouble, you can always have somebody else read it, maybe go over it with somebody that you know and trust, maybe a lawyer or just a trusted advisor that you have, because that's going to make a big difference when it's time to pay back any funds that you're getting. And then the other key is there's so many different available options out there. You'll want to be able to compare what is going to be best for you and your business as far as the interest rate. There may be a big savings. I was talking to a business owner the other day that went to a bank for a loan. That didn't quite work out for the business owner, but what they were able to do is get a line of credit that may be able to be turned into a loan. So they went through it quite extensively, which is really what you want to do. If you're going to be borrowing money, you want to make sure that you're going to be able to pay it back, because like in your personal life, having good credit on the business side is key when you need to get a loan, buy property, maybe you need to buy a vehicle. So you want to make sure that you're in good standing as far as your credit goes. Number 4 is avoiding automation. In the beginning, we understand that there is a cost to buying software. And Excel is fine in the beginning to keep track of, revenue, expenses, all of those things. But eventually, as your business grows, it's going to be key to find a better solution than Excel. A couple reasons why. Using Excel or something like Excel is time consuming. It's not as efficient. For example, QuickBooks is very efficient. You can have the bank feed directly into your QuickBooks, and so you're keeping track of things. It cuts down on any keystroke errors that might come up when you're trying to transfer what you're seeing into Excel. So it's going to save time that way. And the sooner you automate, the better. It is an investment in the business, but it makes sense, because the longer you wait to do that, the longer it's going to take to convert everything into an automated system. And then the other key is, especially now with all the cybersecurity concerns, you then have a proper backup system and storage. With Excel, if it's just on your computer, there's no real backup. If your computer crashes, you may not have access to that information, and that's going to cause a whole nother set of problems for you. And then the final point is waiting too long to consult a professional. A lot of times you could have a conversation with a professional. It doesn't cost anything for that consultation, but then you have a better idea of when and if you want to move forward with hiring someone. Because if you think about if you wait too long, when you do consult a professional, it may cost you even more, because there are things that they're going to have to fix. If you think of, in your house and you have plumbing that you try to do yourself, but then make it worse, so you have to have a plumber come in and fix it, it's going to cost more for him to fix whatever you did by trying to do it yourself. So it's really important to think about that sooner. Even if you think you can't afford it, it's always good to have the conversation just to go through what the true cost might be. And a lot of times you might be able to start with a professional just on a small basis, and then they could grow with your business as you're growing and being successful, because the other key to that is making sure you're spending time on things that are going to generate revenue for your business. A lot of times, you could do, for example, the bookkeeping yourself, because in the beginning, it's not as tough to do, but then you're not spending time generating revenue, or you're staying up too late. So it's key to kind of think about that as you're growing, to make sure that everything is being done correctly and you have true financials every month, so you know exactly what's happening in the business. So again, if you build a good business foundation early, you'll be able to expand, you'll be able to grow, minimize those headaches, because can be really troublesome when you find out that you've been doing things incorrectly, or your cash flow isn't quite what you thought. So I know that was quick, but hopefully you picked up a few things from those 5 issues that sometimes crop up in businesses. Now I know, Lydia, I did get some questions ahead of time. So I'll go ahead and answer those. And then I think there may be some questions in the chat box, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that's correct. Okay. That sounds like a plan.
Yeah, I'll just read. There's 3 questions that I'll go ahead and read, and then I will answer. So the first one is, are bookkeepers using the function in accounting systems which provide the ability to attach documents to transactions? For example, are the vendor invoices being attached to the AP transaction created by the bookkeeper? So I can't speak for all bookkeepers, but in our practice, we are doing things like that to make sure that you have that backup on why was this done, or what's the detail for that transaction. So in our case, we are. Hopefully other bookkeepers are doing that as well. Second question, those bookkeepers who have been in practice more than 5 or 6 years, do they prefer desktop software or completely sold on online system like QBO, which is QuickBooks Online, versus the desktop version? Again, I can't speak for all bookkeepers. In our practice, we are using mostly QuickBooks Online, more so because we are virtual. It just makes it easier for us to access the books that way. We do have some clients that are still on desktop, so we can work with that as well. I think you're going to see more and more people moving to the online version, especially these days when everybody's working virtually. But the other piece to that too is, again, going back to what I was talking about earlier, is the backup system and the storage system. If you have a desktop version, you want to make sure that somebody is backing up that information, but that's not always happening. So in my opinion, I think the online version might be just a little bit better. The third question is, are bookkeepers limiting their work to entering payables, paying bills, entering deposits, and et cetera, meaning are they referring journal entry transactions, adjustments to CPAs or accountants of their clients? So for us in our practice, again, it's a little different with other bookkeepers, but we are doing all of that for our clients. The accountants are used for doing the tax returns. So we do everything that feeds into the tax returns, including, accounting for payables, receivables, invoices, all of those things that some CPAs do. We in our practice do all of that, and then the CPA firm will do the tax returns. Those are the questions that I had ahead of time. Lydia, are there questions that came up during the chat?
Yes, there sure are. There's several. I even have a few of my own. So
okay.
I will start with the ones that are in the Q&A.
Sure.
I'll just start at the top here. So the first one is from Randy, and he's asking if you have specific automation software you prefer or recommend staying away from. And I know you did mention QuickBooks Online, but if you wanted to elaborate.
Yeah, so what we've found at most of the businesses that we're working with, they either already have QuickBooks Online, or that's typically what we would set them up with. But we do have clients that come to us who have been using a different type of software. I mean, I'm not sure one is better than the other. There are some nuances to some software that might work better for a specific industry or business. But for us, I can say that typically QuickBooks Online is a great accounting software for most of the businesses that we're working with.
Great. Next question is from Trisha. Can you offer some best practices for how to set up processes in order to work efficiently with a bookkeeper? That's great.
Yeah, I mean, key for us is just having that communication, right? Making sure that you have everything spelled out. Kind of what I talked about earlier is figuring out exactly what you want to track when it comes to revenue so that you can work with your bookkeeper and that they should be able to recommend what you should set up for your chart of accounts in order to track things the way you want them to be tracked, that is going to give you the best information for analyzing what's happening in your business to figure out what going forward, what that looks like. Does that make sense? I hope I answered that question.
Trisha, let us know if you if that answered your question. If not, we can do a little follow-up. The next question is from Lyra. I hope I said your name properly. Can you talk more about the importance of reading and understanding credit agreements?
I'll try. I'm no expert in that. I think key is just making sure that you're asking questions about, what's the interest rate? Does that stay the interest rate? Is it adjustable? What's the term of the loan or the line of credit? Just all of those little things that come into play so you understand what's your monthly payment going to be when you have to pay back the loan or whatever the case is. And just like I said, maybe have somebody else look over the terms with you to make sure that you understand exactly what you're getting into before. It's like if you go to buy a car, you want to make sure what the payment every month is going to be so that you can budget for it. It's the same with this. You want to make sure that you have all of that information before you sign anything.
That's great. Thank you. Next question. Do you find bookkeepers working for nonprofit organizations typically prepare vouchers for cost reimbursable grants along with normal bookkeeping tasks?
That's a good question. We do have quite a few nonprofit clients ourselves. And I'd have to check with the team, to be honest. I'm not sure the level of detail. I know we kind of customize what we're doing for each client. Obviously, the nonprofits are slightly different than a for-profit business. So that one I can double check and get back to you. I think, we probably could, but I don't want to say that for sure without knowing exactly if that's something that we do.
Great. And that's a good point. If anyone does have a question for Dawn, after we finish going through our questions here, she did put her email address here and her phone number. So you can feel free to reach out to her after the fact with any other questions or follow-ups.
Yes.
And we do have a couple more in the chat.
Okay.
From Dodie. The first part of the question is, we would like to get set up with a new fiscal year. Does it make sense to move everything over and start fresh at that time? We would like to possibly switch banks to be totally fresh and then put everything for that point on our software. So that's the first part of the question.
So, I would say that that's a possibility. I would also suggest that you talk to the tax accountant who you're working with, just to find out if there are any ramifications from, switching fiscal years or anything that might be a surprise. Nobody likes surprises, right? So I would consult with that person to make sure that there aren't going to be any other issues if you're doing that.
Great. And the next part of Dodie's question is there a software you would recommend for nonprofits, and is QuickBooks Online a good choice for nonprofits?
So yeah, I mean, QuickBooks Online is a great, as for the for-profit businesses, the nonprofits. And I don't know if everybody on the call knows about a website. It's called Techsoup. And they provide a lot of software to nonprofits. I'm not sure what the criteria is. You do have to qualify in order to utilize their services, but they have a very good price for QuickBooks Online, even better than what we can get for our clients. So that's a great option. They also have other available software on that website. So I would recommend looking there. And seeing if that's going to work for that nonprofit.
That is a great point. I just put the Techsoup URL in the chat. So if anybody wants to check that out, thank you so much for mentioning that. And then one more part to Dodi's question. Would an outside accountant get it all set up for us with new software? So I guess this is that transition that Dodi mentioned.
Yeah, and we've done that with our clients. One that specifically comes to mind, it wasn't a nonprofit, but they already had QuickBooks and they had tried using past bookkeepers that things just were not done correctly. So when we started working with them, we were able to start fresh with a new QuickBooks subscription and just do journal entries to move the balances over, start clean, but not lose the information from past years that they already had.
Great, thank you so much. Hopefully that answered all of your question, Dodi. Let us know if not in the chat. And one more question here from Randy, which is kind of along the lines of what my question was. He says, sometimes I get a P&L statement from my bookkeeper and I fail to look at it or really comprehend what I'm looking at. What should I really pay attention to? And I would add to that, what other reports are important to pay attention to, as a consultant?
Yeah, P&L definitely. I mean, because I'm not actually a bookkeeper, I can't speak to that, but I know we encourage our clients, and I would encourage anybody that's working with a bookkeeper, reach out to them and say, can we just go through the financials so I understand exactly what I'm looking for? And a lot of times, like, we'll do other reports for our clients, whether it's a cash flow forecast or something specific to their industry that's going to help them really dig into those numbers. And there are various reports that you can create in QuickBooks to pull out some of that information. So I would definitely go back to your bookkeeper and kind of voice what you're feeling or your concern. They should not have a problem going over the information. That's kind of what they're there for. So I would suggest that. And then too, Lydia, if I can add, I know this was pretty quick, but if anybody wants to talk or email with me, I'm more than happy to take time to go over things or clear things up that, we talked about in this presentation.
Great, thank you. We appreciate that, definitely, because I'm sure that people will have more questions. I have one more question.
Yeah.
I recently transitioned to QuickBooks Online, which was amazing. But do you recommend if you are, say, like a consultant, a small business, and you have QuickBooks Online, a lot of it is kind of automated and easy to do yourself. Should you still have a monthly bookkeeper or maybe somebody quarterly, or, what do you suggest?
Yeah. So, and again, I can't speak for other bookkeepers or other companies out there. And I've had people that have come to us and they've said, because they think they're small, that they only need to look at their financials quarterly or annually. And I understand that, but for us, we are going to provide that monthly, because you want to make sure that you're picking up those little changes as they're happening before they turn into big changes. And, it doesn't cost that much more, depending on the service that you're using, to be able to just have a small amount done by a bookkeeper. For example, we engage with clients differently. So if it's a brand new business, the owner may still be doing a lot of things in QuickBooks themselves, and then we just kind of come in behind them and make sure that things are reconciled correctly and that they're not missing things. So there's a way to work with providers that is not going to break the bank, so to speak, so that you make sure that you're doing things accurately and that, again, you're getting solid information to be able to run your business.
That's really good to know. I think, like Randy had mentioned, I sometimes don't look at the reports, or I look at them and don't really know what I'm looking at. So that's why I was thinking, well, maybe it is good to have somebody monthly just to, give me a heads up, or
Sure.
if something is off. Okay, we have a couple more minutes left. I've just put something in the chat. Oh, okay, we've got one more question here from Dodi. Do you know if QuickBooks Online has a function that we can look at real numbers versus things we budgeted? or are the only numbers in QuickBooks Online actual?
An excellent question, and I am not sure. But I can find out and get back to Lydia. I can send that to you. Is that?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
And Dodie, feel free also to reach out directly to Dawn. We put her email in the chat, and it looks like, oh, you know what? Trisha actually answered. It looks like they do that for us for ACN. You can run an actual to budget report.
Okay, and that's what I was thinking too. But again, I'm not working in that software very often, so I always like to double check. So that's good. Yep.
Perfect. Yes, and as I mentioned, any other questions, follow-ups, feel free to reach out to Dawn or one of us at ACN, and we can pass it on to Dawn with your questions. I know that, I'm going to start my video back up here. I know that a lot of these concerns, you know, as consultants or small businesses, we have similar concerns. So we're grateful today that Dawn was able to come in and talk to us a little bit and make it seem maybe a little less scary.
Hopefully.
So hopefully we will now start looking at those reports and
Yes.
understanding what they mean and not ignore.
You know, if I could add, as anything, whether it's your financials or you know, bank statements, you know, I would not hesitate to reach out to your bookkeeper, your banker, whoever it is, and just say, hey, you know, can you take a couple minutes and just go over this with me so I make sure that I understand it. A lot of times people don't know what questions to ask, or they may feel kind of funny asking questions, but I would recommend that definitely.
That's really great advice. And Trisha just put in the chat,
Yes.
the more often you look at them, the more comfortable you get. And it's so true, because when I first was looking at cash flow and P&L, I was trying to get my certification and running all these reports. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I haven't looked at these in a really long time. What am I even looking at? So yes, let's all do it on a regular basis. Know where
That's what we recommend.
recommend.
Again, just to catch those little things that
Definitely. Yes. The little things can turn into big things, right? Great. Well, thank you again, Dawn, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Hopefully, you know, everybody picked up a few things, maybe some things to think about. But again, I'm always available to talk or to, you know, answer questions.
Wonderful. And thank you to everybody who joined us, to all of the ACN members and friends. We've popped up on the screen here some upcoming events, which for the members, especially the new members of ACN, on August 5th, we have a new member orientation. And this applies even if you are a seasoned member and you maybe just want to catch up on all the awesome member benefits that we have. That will be a Zoom call, of course. And August 11th is our next session in our Ask a Consultant series. And this will be a diversity, equity, and inclusion discussion, which is awesome. Really looking forward to that. And we will have more details coming soon for that. So stay tuned, you know, watch your emails, check our website, and we've got a link there to see all our events. And thank you again, Dawn. It was great to see you.
Thank you, Lydia.
And I'm so happy that you could come and chat with our group. Remember, everybody, if you have questions, you can reach out to Dawn, and we hope to see you again at our next event.